What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Derek, and in today's video I'm going to show you guys how to create self-improving AI agents using AutoGen Studio. If you don't know what AutoGen Studio is, it is a new program developed by Microsoft. It's currently in beta, so it's not perfect. If you've ever used the service or if you've ever seen the program AutoGPT, it's very similar to that. And basically it allows you to create these autonomous AI agents that can then do different things for you in the real world, using different APIs through different services, things like that. It's basically taking ChatGPT and allowing it to actually interact and actually do things for you on the internet, on your computer, things like that. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump right into it. I'm gonna walk you guys through this step by step. There is no programming. That is the best thing about this new program, about AutoGen Studio. However, there is a little bit of setup and it can be a little bit tricky. So I'm gonna go ahead and walk you guys through it step by step first to get AutoGen Studio actually set up. And then once we do that, we will actually show you guys how to use AutoGen Studio and how to create these self-improving AI agents. The first thing we need to do is install VS Code. So if we do a quick search for VS Code, code.visualstudio.com, we're gonna go here and we're gonna download it. Obviously, download the installer for whatever operating system that you're using. I'm using Windows, so I'll download it for Windows. However, if you're using Mac, you can download it for Mac, or if you're using Linux, you can download it for Linux. They have it for all three operating systems. Then we're also gonna need a program called Miniconda. And to get here, we're gonna go to conda.io, conda.io. And what Miniconda does is basically it allows you to install Python environments on your computer and to manage Python environments extremely easily. When you start using Python to run different programs or to create different programs or to install different programs or whatever the case may be, sometimes each different program works best on a specific version of Python. So you might need to install different versions of Python on your system. And this just makes it very easy to keep track of that, to get into these different environments, etc., etc. So once we go to conda.io, we're going to want to go to Miniconda up here at the top. We're going to click on that. And again, we're going to scroll down and you're going to see, depending on the operating system that you're using, now we're going to install the two systems. First, we're going to go ahead and install VS Code. We're going to accept the agreement. We're not going to read it because who does that? And then what we're going to do is install Miniconda. Once we have Miniconda installed, we're going to uncheck these. I don't need to read any documentation or anything. Neither do you, because you got me and I'm a goddamn legend. And then the next thing that we're going to want to do is, if you are running on Mac OS, you're going to want to open Terminal. And if you are running Windows, you're going to hit the Windows key plus R to bring up your run thing. And we're going to want to run the command prompt. Once we load up the command prompt or terminal, depending on your system, we're going to go ahead and actually make sure that Conda is installed. The way we're going to do this is type in Conda space dash dash version. When we do that, you should get the version of Conda that is installed on your systems. The next thing that we're going to want to do before we move on is actually now open up VS Code. And then once we open up VS Code, we're going to want to do one more thing. We're going to want to hit the Control Command P if you're on Mac, or Control Shift P if you're on Windows, which is just going to open up this box up here with this little greater than arrow. And we're just going to want to type in the following command, which is shell command colon space install code command in path. Once we run it, we're going to go ahead and hit enter. Boom, it's doing that. You see the little thing spinning next to my mouse? That means it's doing work. And then once that's done, we're going to want to reopen up our command prompt. Specifically, we're going to type in conda create-n, and then we're going to type in a environment name. So in our case, I'm going to use AutoGen, and this is case sensitive, so make sure you pay attention to that. And then again, the whole reason of this is so that we can have a specific version of Python, and Microsoft recommends Python version 3.11 for AutoGen Studio. So we're going to go ahead and type in Python equals 3.11 and hit enter. It'll now do its little job and install this environment. And it's going to ask us, do we want to proceed or not? We're going to hit yes, Y for yes, and hit enter. And it's going to download all of the different packages, including Python and every other package that it needs. And then what we're going to do is we can check that it installed properly by typing in conda env list. And this will give us the list of all of the different environments we have installed through Conda. If you ever forget what your environment's called, or if you have multiple environments, maybe you have multiple installs of AutoGen Studio because you're doing some testing or whatever, it's just an easy way of checking that. So we can see here we have the base, which is the original that's installed, which by the way, you don't have to install it. You can actually uncheck that when you're doing the install of Miniconda and it won't install that. So now that the way that we're going to actually activate it is simple, we're just going to type in Conda activate and then the name of our environment. Now I'm pretty sure it's going to give me an error here. Yep, run conda init before conda activate. So we're gonna run conda init. And then once we do that, we're actually going to need to restart our command prompt. So again, we're gonna close it, hit Windows R, type in CMD, and then we're gonna do, again, conda activate AutoGen. And then, boom, there we go. So now that we have AutoGen, we're in the environment. You can see on the left side here, we have in parentheses the name of our environment. That lets us know that we're currently inside of that environment in Conda. Once we have that done, we're actually going to go back to VS Code and we need to create a new folder. So we're going to go to open folder here and we're going to go to where we want to install it. We're just going to go like to documents, for example, here. And we're actually going to create a folder for this project. So I already have one here called AutoGen actually. So we're going to select that folder and we can see that we now have a folder opened up in VS Code. Once we do that, under it, we're going to want to create a new file by clicking the little file icon up here under right next to the folder name. And we're going to want to name it main.py as in Python. And then we're going to want to actually install the AutoGen Studio package. So the way that we do this is once again, we go back to command prompt and we're going to type in pip install AutoGen Studio. Pip is the program that you use in Python to install different packages, Python packages. We're going to hit enter. It's going to install it. It's going to do its thing and it's installing it inside of the environment that we created, which means if we're not in this environment, it won't be installed. So if you ever have a trouble like getting it to do anything, it's probably because you're not in the correct environment. And then once it's done, we can go back over once again to VS Code and we want to create a new or run a new terminal. So we do that by clicking terminal up here in new terminal. And you can see here it says AutoGen and then once again it says PowerShell. That's what the PS stands for. And then it has the path to the folder that we created for our environment. Now, if for whatever reason it does not say AutoGen at the start here, maybe it says base, maybe it says a different environment name. In order to change it, all you do is down here in the bottom right of VS Code, you click this little box here, which will bring up all of your different installs. See base, AutoGen. You can click on the one that you want, and then you can just, once again, click terminal and new, and then it should open it in that correct environment. And then all we're gonna wanna do is we're actually gonna wanna just run a command here inside of VS Code that is going to actually open up like the AutoGen Studio software, allow us to run it in a visual way so that again, we don't have to do any coding or anything like that. So the way that we do this is we just type in AutoGen Studio, space UI, space -- port, space 8081, it can be whatever port you want, but that's the default, space -- app dir for app directory, space folder, enter. Boom, it does it. Now, once it does it, you'll see it says here that it's running on and it has the URL, which is your localhost URL 127.0.0.1 colon, and then the port number that you use, in our case, 8081. You can go to your web browser and type this URL in, or you can just do either command click if you're on Mac or control click if you're on Windows, and it'll open up AutoGen Studio inside of your web browser. And here we go. You can see AutoGen Studio Beta. Boom, baby, let's go. We got it running, and you can see at the top, if you've ever used OpenAI's API platform or Anthropic's API platform, then you're probably familiar kind of with this look of where we have like a build section, a playground section, etc., and that's exactly what we have here. We're actually going to want to go to the build section first, and I'm going to go ahead and kind of just give you guys a quick little overview of kind of what we have going on here. And so the first thing we have is skills here at the top. Now, if we click on one of these, for example, you can see that this is code. You said, I can hear you now, Derek, you said I don't have to do any coding. You said I don't need to know how to program. You don't, but programs are what allow the agents to do different things. Basically, this creates functions, which then your AI agents can run, which essentially are code that allows it to do something. For example, in this case, this particular skill would allow an agent to use OpenAI's API service to run DALL-E 3 to create an image using AI. So these are what we need to give our agents in order for them to perform different things. For example, maybe you want your agent to be able to look up the price of a stock of a company. Maybe you want them to be able to browse the web like OpenAI's ChatGPT does when you're using it. All of those different skills. To start, your AI agents in here have none of those skills. So unlike ChatGPT where there are a couple built in, you have to build those in yourself as well as add any additional ones that you want to add. Which the cool thing about it is with ChatGPT, GPT, you're kind of stuck to whatever skills they have implemented into their system. With these, you can build any type of function you want to build and then give your agents access to those functions. The next thing we have is our models here on the left. Models is just that. It's the models that your agents will use. In our case, we're going to use OpenAI's latest model, which is ChatGPT 4o. But the O basically means like Omni model, which means it can do a lot of stuff. But basically, it's just their smartest current model that is out at the time of this video anyways. If you're watching this video and ChatGPT 5 is out, you should probably use ChatGPT 5. And then under agents here, this is where we actually create our different agents that would do things. And then the real power of AutoGen Studio is this workflow system, which allows you to then tie all of the different AI agents together. Maybe you have an AI agent that looks up stock prices. Maybe you have an AI agent that does research on the web. Maybe you have an AI agent that does programming, all of that different stuff. The workflow is what's going to allow all these different agents to talk to each other to then actually create basically one super agent that can kind of use all these different agents to perform the tasks that you want it to perform. First things first, we need to add our model. So we're going to go here and we're going to add a new model, and we need to give it the name. So we need to find the model name that we want to use, which I can already tell you is GPT-4, not 0, and then we want an API key. So to get an API key, we're going to go to platform.openai.com, and you're going to want to log in or create an account if you do not have an account, and you do need the OpenAI API. Costs money to use. It's fairly cheap, and it gets cheaper and cheaper as these new models come out. And then we're actually going to want to go to our API keys here. We have a project set up called AutoGen Studio already. I'm going to delete these ones because these were obviously just test ones when I've been playing around with the program. And we're going to create a new key. We're going to call it AutoGen, and it's going to be under the AutoGen Studio project. We're going to create secret key. Now, you don't want anybody else to have this API key, but you want to make sure that you do not actually share your key with anybody. So once we have the key, so we can plug it in here, we can hit Control V to paste it in, and we can call this right here, we can just call it GPT-4o model, and we can test the model by clicking test model. That means we're good to go. We can hit save, and then what we're going to want to do is we're actually going to want to real quick go back to AutoGen Studio, and we're going to want to add one more new file under our folder, and we're going to call it .env. So this is our env file where we will keep our API keys that we use within our programs. An env file basically protects your keys and stuff from getting out if anybody views your code or whatever or anything like that. So what we need to do is type OpenAI _API _key equals, and then we're just going to paste in that key here as well, and then we'll hit Control S to save. You can click File, Save up here, whatever works best for you, and then we can add any additional keys that we need in here, API keys over time, to this file as well for our agents. So once we have that done, we can go back to our web browser and we can actually go to our agents section, and now we can actually set up our agents, which will do all of the work for us. They will self-improve our agents by creating new skills for us. And so we're going to create 3 different agents. We're going to create a planner agent that will basically plan out what we're going to do, and it will then pass that plan on to our programmer agent, and our programmer agent will actually create the code that will be our skill, and it'll then save that code so that we can then use it as a skill inside AutoGen Studio. And then once it's done creating the code, it'll send it to our reviewer agent, and our reviewer agent will just review and optimize the code, making sure there's no issues in it or making sure there's no way to improve it. Once the reviewer does that, it'll send it back to our programmer agent, who will then, fix the issues or whatever. And then he will send it back to our reviewer, back and forth, and then until the place where the reviewer says, "Hey, it's good." And once that's done, the reviewer agent will say, "We're done." And then boom, we'll have our finalized code that will now be a new skill for us. So in the top right here, we're going to click on new agent, and we need to give our agent a name. Again, our first one is our planner. So we're going to call him planner _agent, and then we need to give him a description. I'm going to copy and paste my agent description in. So basically this tells the manager AI what this agent is and what it does and how it should use it. And so we want to make sure we give it very clear instructions here in the agent description. Now, if you want, I do have a free community, at least it's free at the time of the release of this video. However, it will turn to a paid community eventually. And specifically, it is a free community for single dad techpreneurs. However, if you're just wanting my different prompts and agent descriptions and system messages and things like that, you do not have to be a single dad to join it per se, but just realize that is overall what the community is about. Specifically, I'd like to help single dads leverage tech to create impact, build wealth, and achieve personal growth while excelling in fatherhood. That's kind of my personal purpose in life. But again, you don't actually have to be a single dad to join the community and get these prompts and stuff, again, for free. And the nice thing is, once you join as a free member, you do become a founding member and you will enjoy free membership forever. We're gonna paste in our agent description, max consecutive auto replies. This is how many times we can see here. It can go back to the planner where the planner will give a reply. The planner's just gonna say, I'm done, and it's gonna end. The planner should only go like once, honestly, in our workflow. However, we'll just turn it down a little bit to like 4. This is also a way that you can limit that it doesn't get stuck in some kind of a loop. That's really what this is for. Agent default auto reply. You know, we don't need to set this for this one. This one's not gonna do anything in terms of its auto reply. Human input mode, never. Well, again, these are self-improving AI agents. We don't wanna have to do anything, so there should never be any input from ourselves. So then we're going to copy and paste our system message in here, and then we're gonna wanna choose our model. If you remember, we added in model 4.0. So the temperature allows you to basically tells OpenAI how creative or uncreative, or how consistent or inconsistent that the model should be. So the lower the temperature, the more consistent the model is going to be in its output. The higher the temperature, the more creative it can be, or the more inconsistent it'll be. So because this is our planner and it's gonna be coming up with ideas, plans for our programmer to use, we can actually adjust this and turn this up a bit. And actually we can probably go to something like, I think 0.7 is the default with ChatGPT. So we're gonna go up to like 0.9 maybe. And then skills is where you would give it a specific skill if you needed to have that skill. We do not need it to have a skill, so we're just gonna leave it there and hit OK. And boom, there we have our planner agent. The next agent that we're gonna want to do is our programmer agent. So again, we're gonna go click on new agent. We're gonna type in programmer underscore agent. For our agent description, again, I'm gonna copy and paste in the one that I have here. So this time, max consecutive auto reply. Because this is our programmer, unlike the planner, the optimizer and the programmer might go back and forth a couple times. So we're actually gonna leave this up at the default 8 and give it a few more than the last one. And then just like before, we're gonna copy and paste in our system message. And we're just gonna quickly review everything, make sure it's good. And again, we're gonna wanna change our model to our ChatGPT 4.0 model. And temperature, because this is the programmer and this has to do with how consistent or inconsistent it is, or how much creativity it's allowed to have, we actually wanna keep this one low. So we're gonna keep it at 0.1 because we don't want the programmer to do its own thing. We want it to follow step by step what the planner gave it. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. Then we're gonna hit OK. And then we just need to do our last agent, which is our optimizer. We're gonna paste in our system message here, and then we're gonna paste in our agent description. And then again, we want to make sure we have the correct model, which is ChatGPT 4.0. And then we're going to hit OK. And now we have our 3 agents. So we have our planner, our programmer, and our optimizer. And these are the 3 agents that we need that will become our self-improving AI agent team that'll create our skills and everything for us. The next thing we have is our workflows, which this is what allows us to actually have our AI agents talk to each other, the 3 of them in this case, with kind of that main AI that'll direct them. We're going to want to actually click on the 3 dots here and click on a group chat, because this is what's going to load up a chat that allows us to have more than 2. If you click on just the new workflow, it's going to have the default agent basically. So anyways, we're going to create it and we're going to call it plan code optimize. And the description, we're gonna use just the first part of our manager one. Again, this isn't super important here because we're actually gonna do it in the receiver part here. First, choose the agents that'll be in this group chat. So we're gonna put them in the order that we're gonna use them. So the planner, then the programmer, and then the optimizer. Speaker selection method, you could do a couple different. You can do auto, round robin, random. Auto is where the manager agent basically chooses who goes next and stuff. So we're gonna name this one manager agent, and agent description, we're gonna say again, we're gonna copy and paste it in. Community link in the description to get all of these if you want it. And then we're gonna copy and paste in our system message for our manager. And again, we're gonna wanna make sure that we use the model 4.0. You can have a lot more max consecutive replies. We're gonna go with something like a max of 20 that it can go, actually we can probably do just a max of like 10. And then we're gonna hit OK. So now we have our workflow set up as well. So we can hit OK once again. We now have our self-improving AI agents and our manager who will work with our agents to create the code that we need. For example, let's go ahead and try it out now. So we're gonna go to the playground up here at the top. We're gonna click on new session and we're gonna choose our plan code optimize and hit create. So once we do that, we're going to say create a function that uses a free API to look up the price of a company's stock, to look up the current price of a company's stock. Please create the most simple method for doing this. And then we're going to hit send. So we first send it to our manager agent, and the manager agent is going to take our user input, and then it's going to decide who to give that user input to. It should choose our planner agent, who is then going to decide on a plan. And so we should see that pop up. And actually, if we go, while it's running, if we go over here to VS Studio, we should be able to see here, it says planner agent. So it's going to first choose that, and it's going to say, understood, let's create a detailed and structured plan to implement a function that uses a free API to look up the current price of a company stock. So then it's going to choose which one to use here. It's going to say plan C is the most straightforward and simple method for fetching the current stock price. It requires minimal setup and code, making it the quickest to implement and understand. And then it's going to say, here's the implementation. So then it's going to give it to our programmer, and then it's going to give it to our optimizer, and you can see it goes back to our programmer, then our optimizer, and then boom, it's done. So now if we go back over here to our studio, it took 6 messages, 35 seconds, and it shows us our skills. Now I will say, this is going to be empty. I don't know why, it's always empty. You know, again, it's in beta. But if we go to the agent messages and scroll down to the end, we should have our final code here, which right here, the optimized code meets all the things. So we're going to want to select it and copy. And then what we're going to want to do is go to our build and go to our skills, and we're going to click on new skill, and we're going to call get_stock price, and we're just going to paste in the code that we have here, and we're going to hit save. And now all we need to do is create a new agent, and we're going to name this get_stock_price. And description, this agent looks up the current price of a company's stock based on the user's input. And then for system message, we can leave it pretty simple, which is just, you are a helpful AI assistant. Your task is to use the get stock price function to provide the current price of a company's, and then provide it to the user. Be sure to import the proper libraries when running any code. Instead of function, let's call it skill, since that's what it's called in here. That might work better. And we'll still just add that just to be sure, to tell it to make sure that it's importing the proper libraries. And then we will once again edit this one, and we will change it here. We will go back, we'll hit OK, we will hit OK, we will go back to the playground, we will hit new, we will go to stock price. What is Apple's current stock price? And let's see what it does here for us. See what it's doing here. Perfect. Let's go, baby. We got it here. So now if we go down, the current price of Apple is $212.49. Now, just to do one more example here, we will go back to our workflows. We will create a new one again. We will go to our plan code optimize, create. We will say, create a function that uses DuckDuckGo to perform a web search. I'm using DuckDuckGo because I know it has a free API. Now you can use paid APIs, you can use free APIs, you can use free APIs that require you to have a sign up. And again, you would just place the API keys in that .env file that we created in VS Code. But I know that DuckDuckGo has a free API that you don't even need to sign up for. So we're just gonna use that one. So final code. So we will go here and we will go all the way down to the end. And we have our final code right here. And we will copy it, and we're going to go to our build and skills, our new skill. We're going to do search_DuckDuckGo, and then we will copy and paste it in here. We will go back to our agents. We will duplicate our stock price one just to make it easier. We're going to call it our research agent, research_agent, and then this agent can browse the web using the search_DuckDuckGo skill to provide research to the user. And then under system message, we're going to paste in our system message here and We're going to have it save it in a file called research.py. We're going to say your task is take the user input, use the search underscore DuckDuckGo skill. Once you feel you have gathered enough research to write at least a 2,000 word article, provide the research and save it and then terminate. Again, you can actually adjust this, and make it better. These are just for examples, but the reason I'm doing like, a 2,000 word article is because I want it to like make sure it's providing enough and it's not providing just a little bit of research, et cetera, et cetera. So we're gonna hit okay there. We now have a research agent. Again, workflow. We're gonna go here and call it research for the workflow name. For the primary assistant, again, we got to switch to something else and then hit research agent, hit okay. And honestly, we don't even want these things. We can probably drop the temperature down to 0, which might make it do an even better job on these of making sure it's following exactly what it's being told. So we'll just hit okay, okay. Now we're gonna hit playground again. All we had to do is basically copy and paste it. Now we can go to research and we can say, what is the latest information you can find about autonomous AI agents? Question mark. That is not how you spell autonomous. And then we're gonna hit enter and let it do its thing here. Hopefully it will. Again, sometimes, as you saw with the last one, sometimes you got to tweak the system messages and stuff to get them just right. But if you've been using any type of AI agents, or not even AI agents, but AI chatbots like OpenAI or ChatGPT or anything like that, then you know that prompt engineering is like the biggest thing. So, boom, it actually did it though, first try. So we have our research, and it actually saved it as our research.py file, which is what we wanted. And to be honest, the stock one, we probably could have put that back in where it saves it as a file and it would have did that. The reason I like doing that, just FYI, kind of housekeeping stuff or whatever, or a little bit of explanation. The reason I always have it save the information, whether it's a stock price, whether it's research, to a file, is this file actually gets saved here within the program. So then you could have other agents be able to pull that information if you're going like in an auto thing where it's going, like it just allows it to say that or whatever. So you can see here, again, we'll go back so it's just a little easier view. You can see here, if we go to the actual agent messages, you can see right here is our research, recent advancements in autonomous AI agents, so GPT-4 and beyond. So it gives that, it has source, autonomous vehicles, current research and developments, reinforcement learning, multi-agent systems, health, AI healthcare, finance. So it's basically telling about how these are being used in different areas and stuff. Again, we could refine it and ask for more specific information. Also, I believe if we use Google's search API, and got an API key and everything and put it in, that it would probably do get us a lot better research, because while I love DuckDuckGo, Google does perform better typically. But there you have it. I mean, that one worked first try. Again, a little bit of prompt engineering, making sure it's saying things right. And then, I tried using function at first where I should have been using the word skill, obviously. But again, it worked. That's what we were trying to accomplish. So there you have it. So now we have our autonomous, our self-improving AI agents that can create these skills for us. They can do all the hard work of coding for us. We don't need to know how to code, and then we can create agents that can use these skills, and we can continue to build our team of agents that can do these different skills, that we can then build these workflows that can allow us to do, if you really start thinking about it and putting some brain power and, behind some ideas and stuff, you can really start to see how you create these really complicated workflows that could do a lot of things. Because for example, these guys can create skills that can basically connect to any API out there and allow you to do pretty much anything, whether that's like automatically posting content to social media platforms, whether that's, again, doing research on the internet, whether that's looking up the location of places, basically anything that has an API that you can connect to, you can have your agents create code that will allow you to connect to these APIs and actually perform actual tasks. So now it's basically ChatGPT on steroids, which is freaking awesome. So with that said, that is the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, if you want to get all of my different prompts, system messages, descriptions, I'll even include like the stock price and the research agents and all of that. If you want to get all of that, make sure to join my school community. First link down in the description below. As of the time of posting this video, the community is completely free of charge, and if you do join, you will become a founding member and you will get lifetime access for free to any and all prompts and everything that I come out with, all the videos that I do around AI, as well as anything else. And again, just a reminder, if you are a single father, specifically my goal or my desire with what I do is to empower single dads to be able to make money online using technology, whether that's through AI or any other emerging technology like crypto, virtual reality, etc., etc. So if that's you, you definitely want to join this community, especially before it goes to a paid community. Thank you guys so much for watching. If this video helped you out, make sure you hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, do all the stuff, share it with a friend. Love your faces. I'll see you guys on the next one. Until then, peace out, everybody. Later, nerds.